news, our views.
So the two tracks you heard were Everything by Mary J. Blige and You Are the Only One by Misha Paris. You are listening to South Central with me, Lisa Ben, and this is the last hour. It's the last hour. It goes so quickly. The theme today is Finding Your Voice. And as usual, Rashid Ogularu expressed some great nudges. And shortly, I'll be speaking to ex-offender and actor Fabian Spencer, who'll be sharing how he uses his experiences to help others find their voice and change their life. So make sure you do not go anywhere.
Colourful Radio.
So that was Miss You by Music Soul Child. I haven't heard that in a while. And but someone I'm not missing at the moment, because he's right in front of me, is Fabian Spencer. Hello, Fabian. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, and good afternoon to you too.
Thank you. So I ask all my guests what or who they appreciate, and I'm going to ask you that same question.
What I appreciate is life, and who I appreciate is God.
Nice.
At this moment in time, and every day when I wake up.
Lovely. So when you wake up, do you pray, or is it just that appreciation that you're seeing another day?
I'm not going to tell a lie and say that I pray every day, even though I should do, because I was brought up as a Christian. My father's a preacher. But within every day, I do give my thanks to God and show my appreciation for my life and my ability to continue doing what I'm doing.
Okay, so before we understand where you are now, I'd like to go back to your criminal past, which you're quite open about. Can you expand on that time? So what led you there?
Must be the devil, to be honest. What led me down that path? It was life and circumstances, to be honest. For me, it was moving within the wrong crowd, having nothing to aspire to or a role model to follow. You know, at that time in my life, the first time I started to get into trouble was when I was 14, but I was becoming a bit of a rogue before that. From the age of 11, you know, I started to do silly things like shoplifting and, you know, smoking cigarettes when I know that my parents wouldn't approve it. I started to do things against authority. You know, I started to disobey my parents. Once you start to disobey your parents, then I think it's more easy for you to disobey rules and regulations of life and society. And that's how I think it all began for me. I had my older brother. He's 1 year older than me. I won't say his name because he wouldn't like that. But I followed him a lot. He was my closest brother. And the things he wanted to do, I chose to follow. I just wanted to be like him, you know? And the first time I ever got arrested was in Victoria, and it was his fault, you know? It was he actually done the deed, and it was about 6 of us at Victoria train station. Some gentleman must have been unchaining his bike, and he pulled the bike out. His bike must have hit my brother's leg or something, and I think one of them kicked the bike, and then they all ran down in the tube station, and I was running at the back, 14 years of age, and they had Victoria, the tube police officers there. One that put their hand on my shoulder and grabbed me, and that was it. I was arrested, taken to Campbell Court, and I was given what they called at this time the short, sharp shock.
And what was that?
That was 6 weeks in detention centre.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was whisked away from home, first time in my life, to Gloucestershire, way out of London, to a place called Eastwood Park. And it was very military-like. Yeah. You know, the regime.
And how did you cope in there?
For the first couple of days, I didn't cope very well, to be honest. You know, I'll be honest, I cried. You know, I cried. I cried because I know I actually wasn't guilty of what I was being sent there for. I was being sent there because I didn't talk out as to, or give names as to who else was with me at the court. And no, I cried. It was horrible. It was a very harsh experience for a 14-year-old. And 6 weeks for me seemed like a lifetime to have to face. you know. The regime was like you had to get up out of your bed 6:30 every morning. You had to get your sheets and your blanket, and you had to make a bed pack, which was like a rectangle shape, and it had to be precise.
So like army regimented.
Yeah, proper regimented, you know. And you weren't allowed to lay down on or sit down on your bed between the hours of 7:30 in the morning to like 7 o'clock in the evening. You had a chair and a table, you know. It was proper regimented.
So
I remember
it was a shock.
It was a shock
to
to my system. I remember an Irish boy getting caught sleeping underneath his bed, and I heard the door bust open, and the officer said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I got migraine, sir, migraine," saying, because he was trying to hide his underneath his bed because he knew he was not allowed to lay on top of the bed, you know.
So when you came out, because that, you said it was a short, sharp shock to the system.
Yeah.
So you came out, but then later on you did go back to prison again. So what happened within that time?
Well,
because the shock didn't maybe deter you from going back again.
No, well, I wouldn't say the shock didn't deter me from going back again, because it did scare me, you know, because I went from Eastwood Park to Blantyre House, and Blantyre House is where we had to wear like army boots, gaiters, we had to march everywhere we went, you know, we had to sleep in a dormitory. You know, we weren't allowed to speak once we was in the dormitory. We weren't allowed to speak in the dining room.
So that's interesting. So today is called Finding Your Voice. So if you weren't allowed to speak, what is that doing for you? And you're wanting to express yourself in whatever capacity that may be. What did that do? Because effectively you're being suppressed and silenced.
Yes, I was being suppressed and silenced. We were being controlled. You know, it was a horrible, horrible feeling. And the officers, you'd have to call them sir, and they would shout in your face, you know.
So emotionally, what did that do to you?
Emotionally, it broke me down. It broke me down, but it made me angry at the same time. So I suppose even though it taught me a lesson, it most probably taught me, you know what, next time you better run faster and don't get caught, even though that's not the right thing, you know. Yeah, it was a very scary experience for me, you know. But the reason why I say I came back now, because my background, I come from a one-parent family. My mother grew us up 7 children, 6 boys and 1 girl. I was the middle child, and no fault of my mum, I felt as if I was missing out. You know, my younger siblings had the majority of her attention. I always tried to follow my brother Mark, or my sister Paula, or my brother Paul, you know, but there was I don't think I had the support that I required or that I wanted.
So then do you feel you got into the wrong crowd because you're looking for maybe another family unit or something?
Yeah, and that's what I did. I moved out of my house at the age of 15.
Wow.
You know, so at the age of 15, I was living with a girlfriend, you know, still in Camberwell, same area that my mother lived. My mother knew her mother and her grandmother and so on. I was living in her grandmother's house. But then I didn't have anybody telling me what to do, forcing me to go to school. And I ended up getting expelled from school in the 4th year. So I didn't actually get
So you went from,
complete.
I guess, feeling like you had no boundaries to going into a detention centre and having really strict boundaries to the point where it just shot your system. You went from maybe loose boundaries to regimented, and then again feeling suppressed in regards to not being able to allowed to speak or anything like that, or talk about your feelings and stuff. So I'm going to go to a break, and when I come back, I'd like to know how you were introduced to acting, because you were introduced to that in prison. I was. And now you are an actor. So I want to speak about that transition when we come back after this. It's a track by Nivea called
This is Colourful Radio. Our music, our news, our views.
So that was Nivea and No More. And before that track, Fabian was talking about his experience within detention centre and prison and the differences. And I just mentioned that he is now an actor and he was introduced to acting in prison. So Fabian, can you tell me a bit more about how that came about?
How that came about? Okay. In 2004, I was actually working at the time. I was a fundraising manager. I was driving a car, which I shouldn't have been driving at the time, because I didn't have a full license, basically. And the police said they're stopping me for armed robbery. And they searched my car for a gun or whatsoever. I've never held a gun in my life. And I was quite rude to the officer. And he didn't find the gun, but he still insisted on arresting me and putting me on remand for this offence, which I had nothing to do with. So I was placed in Brixton Prison, 2004. And I've always been a jovial person, singing along the wing. I mean, even though I was in prison, I never made it beat me down. I always came out at the beginning of every day singing, you know. And one day I was playing pool on the wing, and this fellow called Dr. Bruce Wall came along and approached me and said, you have a wonderful voice, and I'm opening up a professional drama school inside the prison. I was wondering if you'd like to partake. And I said, no, I don't know about that. You know, but he said, no, you'd be great. You'd be fantastic at it. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try. Because I've always been musical. I used to rap when I was younger. I used to make dub dats for this and that radio station or whatsoever. And music's always been part of my life. Drama, being on stage, it's just like an extension to that. So, I mean, before I actually went into prison in 2004, I did actually enroll at Lambeth College, Clapham Common branch, to do a performing arts course. But then again, I was driving whilst disqualified and didn't get to complete the course.
Right,
so when I was approached by Dr. Bruce Wall inside the prison, I thought, might be a blessing from God.
Yeah,
and I took him up on the offer.
So when you enrolled into the acting within the prison, how did it make you feel? Because earlier you expressed that you weren't allowed to express yourself, you weren't allowed to speak, etc., etc. So what did you learn? What did acting in prison give you?
It gave me back my voice, I'd say. It gave me back my voice, and I feel proud to say that, because Shakespeare, for me, it was a company called the London Shakespeare Workout, and they dealt mainly with Shakespeare's text. First things first, we started to work on things like sonnets and poetry. And for me, that's just an extension of me writing my lyrics.
Yeah.
And, you know, they introduced us to the iambic pentameter. And I realised that a lot of my lyrics that I used to write used to be in the iambic pentameter anyway, you know. So I found it very easy, and I started to write poems in iambic pentameter inside my cell. Can
you explain what that means for people who don't know?
Iambic pentameter, 5 stressed lines.
5 stressed lines. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, why should I be what you want me to be? Life is what one makes of it for oneself. Yeah, and so on. I can give you the full poem.
Love it. I like that.
Shall I give you the sonnet?
How long is it?
Only 12 lines.
Okay, go for
14
it.
lines.
Go for it.
Why should I be what you want me to be? Life is what one makes of it for oneself. How can we sit like stock upon a shelf, knowing life has so much more to offer? What if, perchance, I strove to live my dreams? Ambitions toy my mind, success I see. I'll try, I'll crave, I'll lust, I must be free. Free to decide my fate, how hard it seems. Yet I believe this life with which we are blessed is naught if first ourselves we cannot love. Life is not a game, it's merely a test. Our tomorrows none have certainty of. Why should I do what you want me to do? My life is mine, so doubt, be off with you. That's a sonnet.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Bravo! No, really lovely.
14 lines.
And so when you were just saying that, I can't, because there's so much life and expression in what, I mean, and I can see you, obviously, the people at home can't, but, you know, there's so much expression within that. So you telling me that you was in prison and you weren't allowed to speak, weren't allowed to express yourself, you don't, how do you survive in that condition?
Well, I suppose other prisoners, they just fight and they kick off on the wing and they cause trouble. It's pent up anger, it's pent up frustration. You know, they have a voice. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has emotion. Everybody has something they want to say. You know, but when it's suppressed, it comes out. It manifests itself in different ways: in anger, in violence, in theft, in robberies. In, you know, it's just rebellion. Yeah. You know, against whatever system or wherever they're living. But for me, my voice was given back to me within the prison because my door was opened more often than others. You know, every time the governor had visitors, he would call me and another guy down to give a presentation.
So you got your connection back, with, I guess, with society.
With
so you weren't
society.
in society. Well, you're in a society within a society, I guess. But in terms of outside society, you were embraced back into that while still being in prison, and you got that connection back.
Yeah.
And I guess your belief that, you know, there is potentially something that you could do outside when you do leave prison.
Yeah.
So you are a walking example of how important it is for the system to have things like this.
Yes, definitely.
And so now you're out, and you are an actor, and you empower other people to use their voices. So can you explain a little bit more about how you do that with your work with young people?
Okay, well, I've been out since 2004, the very same year. As I said, I was on remand for something I didn't do, and I was released in December. I went back to the prison on a 3 days a week to complete the course, and then I worked with the London Shakespeare Workout for 3 years straight. We worked in other prisons, youth offended institutions, Feltham, Rochester, those sort of institutions. For a number of years, I toured for a number of years with London Shakespeare Workout, playing a multitude of characters, Iago, Tom Molyneux, the first black prize fighting champion. I've done that on tour as well. Some good reviews out there as well. But what we do now is we've just started up a theatre production company, Debarred Theatre, and our aim is to work with not just newly released prisoners, but also youths at risk, like youth offending teens, using all forms of art. You know, it's not just about performance. It's about art, drawing, painting. It's about poetry. You know, it's about writing, creative writing.
Different forms of expression.
Yeah, different forms of expression, because you might not be a poet, you know, but you might like to write.
Yeah.
You know, you might be able to write children's books. You know, it's about expressing yourself, getting that inner voice heard, you know. I don't know if I mentioned it. Yeah, last year I graduated and I got a degree in drama and applied theatre.
Congratulations.
Yes. And we studied about the theatre of the oppressed. Yeah, Augusta Boal. And I used the same, like the forum theatre techniques to forum issues with groups of youths, you know.
What style is that? Is that Brecht?
No,
Is that using a Brecht technique?
No, forum theatre is Augusta Boal.
Okay.
Augusta Boal. It's the theatre of the oppressed.
See, I've got a degree in performing arts too, and I'm totally forgetting all my knowledge.
Yeah, it's theatre of the oppressed. It's about using their lives and trying to find different solutions, you know, putting it on a platform. You know, it could be school issues, it could be puberty, it could be about getting a new boyfriend, it could be about peer pressure.
Brilliant.
You know, all these different sort of issues what young people face, you know, which can affect them, you know. Having a girlfriend at a very young age and losing a girlfriend at a very young age can affect you. It can make you angry. It can cause you to get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Because it's not understanding, because they in school they are taught about sex education. They're not taught about how to have a relationship and the emotions involved. So many, I think it's easier for girls, I think, but for guys, they don't know how to deal with that emotion, because they're told to man up. They're told be a man, and being a man equals being strong and not crying and not revealing your emotions.
Your
so there's or
definitely.
perceived weaknesses.
Yes.
So it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
But so that's really, really interesting. And also, just to add, so Fabian is in The Independent today. That he's in the New Review magazine.
Yeah.
Brilliant article. So congratulations for that as well.
Thank you very much.
And also as well, it's proving, I guess, because today is about finding your voice. And when you have found your voice and you step into yourself, doors open.
Yes, they do. But you got to make it. You got to make them open. You know, they say God helps a man that helps himself. You know, you can't sit there and expect things to happen. That's why I said, how can we sit like stock up on a shelf? There's so much more that life has to offer. You know, the world is rich with activity, and I'd say about 40% of the jobs that exist now didn't exist 10 years ago. The internet has opened up a whole new world to us. You know, you see people that become millionaires just by using their phone. Just tap, tap,
because it's about connection, isn't it?
It's about connection.
So that brings me on to the next song, because we're going to have a music break now, and it's You Might Need Somebody by Shola Ama.
Hey, we all need somebody.
You might need somebody. You might need somebody too. You might need somebody too. You might need somebody.
This is Colourful Radio. Our music, our news, our views.
So that was You Might Need Somebody by Shola Ama, and that tapped into the last part of our conversation where we were talking about connections and network and the importance of that, and actually reaching out, because everybody needs somebody. So as long as you can understand or feel that you need to talk about something, that you need help with something, you can always reach out. We all need somebody. You actually can't do it all alone all the time. Fabian, what projects are you currently working on?
At present, I'm one of the executive producers of Blige Theatre. I'm working on, well, it's a company that tries to find a platform to give voice to the voiceless, basically.
Brilliant.
Our first production, The Bard, we done a rehearsed reading on 16th of February at the Royal Court.
Brilliant.
And that's actually been taken up by Theatre 503 right now for next year's season. So they're going to do some work with us on that.
Fabulous.
To try and get that on. But we've also been taken on for the Croydon Ambition Festival, and that's at the Fairfield Festival Hall on the 23rd of July, and the Youth Takeover Festival at Rich Mix in Shoreditch as well.
So you're busy. This is good. You're
we have
busy.
a few things happening.
That's really good. And I think that also shows that society and maybe organisations are starting to realise the importance of different techniques and different ways of allowing people to express themselves in different forms. So that's a really good outcome from that.
That's what we want to do.
And lastly, just before I close, I'd like to know if you could whisper into the ears of your younger self, maybe your 14-year-old self, what would you say?
Don't do it unless it makes you feel proud and good about yourself. That's what I'd say.
That's really good. Yeah. Okay, and I don't know. Okay, so I'm just thinking on the spot now. So I also want to say then, you are here in yourself in this moment. What would you like to acknowledge about yourself to yourself?
What would I like to acknowledge about myself to myself? That I'm progressing, and that this has been a joyous day, and that better must come. Every day is becoming better and better and better. And I just want that that our new project with my work partner Dean Stallum, Blige Theatre, to go from strength to strength. I want people to contact us. I want people to tweet about us. I want people to send us emails, give us a call. You know, we need the work. We are ex-offenders, but you know what? We're trying to use the rehabilitated to rehabilitate those that need rehabilitating.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I commend you on the work you're doing. Congratulations for coming out the system and making something of yourself, and I wish you all the best in your projects.
Thank you very much.
And well done again for that article in the Independent.
Yes.
It's absolutely brilliant. So congratulations. Congratulations.
Today.
And you just mentioned Better Days, and funny enough, that is my last track for today. Spooky. Better Days by Vesta Williams. So guys at home, enjoy. Have a lovely day. Keep thinking about the question, which is, have you found your voice? You may not get the answer today, but keep asking yourself the question. The answer will come when you're ready to. Have a great day on Colourful Radio. Have a great day in general. And I'll see you at the same time, the same place next week. Here is Vesta Williams with Better Days.
Don't worry, it's gonna be better, y'all. Hang in there. The day didn't rain, the sun came out again, the cloud